One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Trump, everybody they know, they gon' vote for Donald Trump, that's the way it goes. All over America, all over the USA, they voted for Donald Trump, that's what I'm trying to say. Election is over, everyone can see. Donald Trump is now the president of your country. Election is over, everyone can see. Donald Trump is now the president of your country. I want to make America great again.
Woo!
I want to lower the taxes. I want to bring all American business back from overseas back to the USA, baby.
There we go.
Ooh, yeah. Donald Trump is now president of your country. Election is over. Everybody can see. Donald Trump is now the president of your country. Election is over. Everyone can see. Donald Trump is now the president of your country.
Breaking news into the Fanfare newsfeed.
When was America great? At the turn of the century, our economy was rocking. This is 1900, 125 years ago. We had no income tax. And all we had was tariffs. All we had was tariffs. And we had so much money that we had the greatest businessmen of America get together to try to figure out how to spend it. That's who we were then. But then we had World War I and we had World War II. And we felt we had a duty to rebuild the rest of the world. So here's what we did. We took down our protection. We took down our tariffs. And we turned instead and we taxed Americans so that we could export the power of our economy and save the rest of the world, which we did. Now let me ask you a question. What decade should that have ended? Should it have ended in the 80s? The 90s? 2000? What in the world are we doing? We're letting the rest of the world eat our lunch. And it is time to make America great again.
I agree.
That's the man that I want running the money for this country. In case you have not heard, that is Mr. Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick is now the new Secretary of, let me just read it for you. I am thrilled to announce that Howard Lutnick, Chairman and CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, will join my administration as United States Secretary of Commerce. He will lead our tariff and trade agenda with additional direct responsibility for the Office of the United States Trade Representative. In his role as co-chair of the Trump-Vance transition team, Howard has created the most sophisticated process and system to assist us in creating the greatest administration America has ever seen. I'm going to play some more about Howard, but notice what he said in that little snippet you just heard from, I think it was the New York City rally. And what he said in that rally and what you just heard right now is something I echoed yesterday with what Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are doing, and how they're doing it conjunctively, basically. At this point, I firmly believe we are heading to an era of no income tax. I don't know how fast he'll do it. I don't know how long it will take him to get it there. But I think Trump is about to launch no income tax. And this guy, Howard Lutnick, is the guy to get us there, to get us to that point. Liberal heads will melt. I don't even care. Don't care anymore. Don't even give one about what they think is going to happen or what should happen. If the bills get paid and we find out and root out all the fraud that's happening, then so be it. No income tax would make this country so prosperous. We'd be able to pay our bills. People are like, well, would we be able to do this and do that? He's not going to do it if we can't pay for it. But once you start seeing, and like I said yesterday, you need to follow Doge on X. Once they get in and they start uncovering stuff, and by the way, I'm going to show you some things today. They're already uncovering some things. They are already uncovering some things that are going to make you go, you got to be kidding me. I showed you yesterday there was, $80 billion that the Pentagon had spent on DEI. I don't know where they spent that money, but they're going to find out. So let's listen to more about what Howard Lutnick has in mind.
I agree. But what would I do? I wouldn't buy Fiji water. I'd buy, another brand of water. I mean, Sonny. Yes, you are completely correct. If we don't make that particular product, that will go up. Anybody who says it's inflation is completely wrong because the other product hasn't gone up. There's only one way to get inflation. Print more money and give it to all of us. When we all have more money, everything is more expensive. Howard, so here was the idea. Put a tariff out and say to the company, if you come to America and you produce in America, you get a tax credit for your tariff. So come to America, build in America, and I've spoken to lots. This came from discussions with lots of industry groups, and they said, if you give us 2 years, we can manufacture in America. We'll bring our production to America, and if you give us back our tariff, and of course it's a bargaining chip. We can't sell a Ford or GM in Europe. You go to Europe, you can't sell a Ford or GM. Why? There's 100% tariffs. How about in Japan? 100% tariffs. So do you think if we said, we're going to tariff you the way you tariff us, do you think they're going to allow Mercedes and all these Japanese companies and Porsches and BMWs to all of a sudden have 100% tariffs in America? Of course not. They're going to come and negotiate, and their tariffs are going to come down. And finally, Ford and General Motors are going to be able to sell in these places.
How's that sound? That sounds cool.
See, what you're hearing from this guy is elementary math. If you want to sell here, but you're not letting us sell there, we're going to charge you more until the scales even out. You can't say, listen, we're gonna make it more expensive for business to sell in XYZ country, but you expect us to just consume all your stuff. That is classic wealth redistribution. You're going to tax the hell out of Americans, and you're going to import all these goods that they have to pay more for. Meanwhile, people over there don't have to worry about that. The left has made tariff sound like a bad word. And what he was talking about, the Fiji water, and I'm not sure if he's talking specifically about that brand, but it's not, it doesn't raise your prices as long as at the same time the antitrust department here in the United States is making sure you have options. So when you walk into the store and you say, this water is $6 a bottle. This bottle is $1 a bottle. Your prices haven't raised. Your choices are different. Americans have to, begin, if you can't afford it, don't buy it. Get that mentality. There's nothing wrong with saying, I like Fiji water, but they want, $6 a bottle, whereas, this bottle over here is from Pennsylvania, it's only $1. Yet then you can afford the $1 bottle, and so on and so on. That T-shirt that Walmart sells that comes from China might be $6, but you know what? There might be a company in America who can probably going to produce a better shirt for you, or it may come from Ecuador, a country that doesn't have imbalance in trade, or maybe the Dominican Republic. They're not saying you can't buy clothes from other areas. They would prefer for you to buy American, but America is going to have to compete. And all they're saying is, let's level the playing field so that all the companies here and ones that want to sell here can compete on a level playing field. It's that simple. When you walk up to the counter, or rather to the rack, and you see something you want to buy, and you pick it up and you look at the price tag and it's $6, and you can get something very similar for $2, that's a choice that you have to be able to make and would want to make. Hey, same thing, yeah. Same material, Cotton, yeah, everything looks good. Then why would you pay more? Now, obviously, depending upon your lifestyle and your choices, you may choose to do otherwise. You may say, I don't feel like buying a Ford car. I want a Mercedes. That's your choice. You're going to pay more. So you're not obligated to buy the cheaper one. You can buy whatever you want. So there really is no argument with this. It doesn't make any sense when you hear people get up there and lie to you and say, your prices are going to go up. No. The price for X, a t-shirt, is probably going to go down. It's just which t-shirt you're going to buy. It really is that simple. I wish they didn't try to make it seem like it was such a huge thing that how are we going to explain it to the American people? The American people will figure it out. You don't have to explain it to the American people. When they go to the store, they will look and see different price tags, and they will gravitate towards the one they choose to buy. It's that simple. It really is that simple. And just having that choice is going to make people more prosperous. There may be times, depending on the time of month and what you have in your pocket, you may say, you know what? I'm going to buy this dollar thing. I want to tell you something, and I'm not ashamed to say it. In here in Boca, which is probably one of the most affluent areas in South Florida, you know what the most crowded stores are in Boca? The thrift stores and the dollar stores. And you will pull up. You will pull up to a dollar store and pull into your parking space and be next to a Mercedes or a Bentley. And you see the ladies going in, they don't skimp on their bags. They may have the Fendi bags and everything, and they may have the Gucci glasses, but when they're walking in to get chips and cookies for the kids, they're in a dollar store. I swear to God, they are in there. So it's just a matter of understanding how to shop, where to shop, and how to look at things, and having the various options that will be available to you. They make it sound like it's so difficult, and it's really, really not.
Is it going to come down? Of course, this is just negotiating.
It absolutely makes sense. If you do it strategically, if it's across the board, it creates a real problem. And the question is whether you believe the president is going to do it strategically or across the board. He keeps saying it across the board.
Well, when you're running for office, you make broad statements so people understand you.
Right.
Okay? Tariffs are an amazing tool by the president to use. They're an amazing tool, but he understands, don't tariff stuff we don't make. Right? If we don't make it, and you want to buy it, I don't want to put the price up there. It's pointless, but use tariffs.
You understand that now, right? That's how you make sure that you keep the prices where they are. The Democrats lied to you. Hey, we don't make this microphone. This microphone cannot be purchased from an American company, so we don't need to tariff this microphone. Obviously, there are American microphones, but I'm just saying. If we can't make it, then there's no reason to tariff it, because now you are hurting people. But if all of a sudden there was the same kind of microphone that's sitting right here, this microphone right there, if there was the same kind of microphone that you could buy, but this one's from China or South Korea versus this one in America, you can still buy the more expensive one. You just now have the option. Yeah, I think the Democrats are weirded out about this whole thing because the question that will beg is the same question that happened in this election. When Kamala Harris was running and she's like, I'm going to do all this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, the easy question to ask her was, well, why the hell haven't you done it? And so what's happening right now is people are looking, and they will see, you are going to see as prices change and realize that tariffs aren't the boogeyman. The question is going to be, well, why didn't y'all do that? Hey, Democrats, hey, Elizabeth Warren, why didn't you do this? Why did you lie to us once again? Why did you tell us that the tariffs were the boogeyman and everything was going to fall apart in this economy and poor people were going to get stomped on? When the poor people are like, oh, no, this is pretty good. I got more options. You lied. So whoever's running in 2026 and whoever's going to be running in 2028, that's going to be a campaign slogan. They lied to you. Everything they say to you is a doggone lie. And now you've lived through 2 years of the Trump economy. It's kind of hard. It's going to be very hard. That's why they're fighting right now. They're like, oh, crap. We can't let this guy succeed. Why can't we let him succeed? Why can't we let his picks get in? Because if his picks get in and he changes everything and people are more prosperous and more healthy, why would they ever vote against that? That's why the rats are biting back and trying to claw on everything, because their political capital, their lifespan is toast if Trump succeeds in the way he looks like he's going to succeed. And I just hope everybody understands that. Can you imagine? Just maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you want to be a politician, and 2 years from now, in the midterms, the Democrats and Republicans are running for different positions, and your stance is going to be anti everything Trump is doing, but yet people love what Trump is doing. How do you win? There's just not enough baby removal to go around, especially 2 years in, when people realize, well, yeah, I can still have one. No, he didn't make me and my friends die. He didn't take away all my rights. When the Transformers can still be Transformers, What are you going to tell them? You sold fear. Oh my God, Hitler's coming. I know about these, what's the word? Ethno-fascists and everything and then 2 years later, they'll sit back and go, nothing happened to me. I was okay. These little Nazis you were talking about, nothing happened. Yeah, that's right. And what do you think the result of that's going to be? I ain't voting for you. You're a liar. I'm okay with what Trump did. My life didn't have any negative effect. I can still, if I'm like that, I can still go have a baby removal, depending on what state you're in. Project 2025 never materialized, did it? No. You were lied to.
Build in America. If we want to make it in America, tariff it, or if we're competing with it, tariff it. But you got to remember, we need to protect the American worker. Finally, someone's going to protect the American worker, and Donald Trump is here to protect the American worker.
Do you think we make a lot of money in tariffs, or if they're used as negotiating tactics? Look, tariffs will come down there. We're not going to have super high tariffs here either. There's not going to be a big pot of money at the end of the day.
I love that story. So which is it? Do we make a lot of money on tariffs, or we bring productivity here, and we drive up our workers here? So it's a win-win scenario. I like both of them. I think what's going to happen is we'll make a bunch of money on the tariffs, but mostly everybody else is going to negotiate with us, and we will be more fair. In 1948, right, we came up with something called the Marshall Plan, right? The world, Germany and Japan were destroyed after World War II, and we wanted to export our economy to them. So we made a rule. They could tariff us, and we won't tariff them. So they can rebuild.
This is the best explanation I've heard of.
So they can rebuild their economy. We rebuilt their economy using something called the Marshall Plan.
Yeah. Oops, what did I do?
Our economy is so awesome that we'll use it to help you rebuild. When should that have ended? What do you think, 1980? Right? 1985? I mean, why 40 years are Japan and Germany and all of Europe still tariffing the heck out of our auto industry, tariffing the heck out of our...
He should have paused there. He should have let them answer that. Why is it still happening? Why is it 40, 50 years later that all of these things are still happening to our economy? Why are we still spending money across the world when it's no longer 1940? There was no Nagasaki. There is no Hiroshima. That country that we were the ones who dropped the big ones said, hey, listen, we knew we had to do this to end the war, but now let's help you. Let's help you guys get back your entire, way of life. It's the least we could do. We nuked you. And so then, what happened? Japan, if you've never been there, I've never been there, but I've seen so many videos and pictures, it became an economic powerhouse. Companies came from there that did everything electronics and autos because we kept subsidizing. Hey, we did something really bad. Here's some more money. Here's some more money. And the American people will continue doing this for how long? And so now we're at the state position where we need to take care of people here first. We did that already. We've given that the office. Can we not give any more? Can we start working on getting America first, get American people back on their feet? You've overtaxed them. We went through the jab-a-demic just like everybody else did. Now can we get everybody here prosperous again? No, you were halfway on the road to communism and Marxism, so that's what we want to just keep going. It's going to be easy now. We're almost there. We're destroying the country. We've convinced all these people that, the Republicans are evil and just want to take your money. And then so we're going to run on baby removal and all the other stuff that does nothing for America. And now you got a guy in there who's like, yeah, we're gonna rebuild America right now.
Furniture industry. Do you realize all your furniture you're buying that's made foreign? It seems crazy. Why? It's because they tariff us and we don't tariff them. It's so obvious.
So you just have to ask, why? After all said and done, you just need to say, hey, why is it? Why is that happening? And what I think they're having a real big problem with is this just got published, I think today. Yeah, today at 11:45. A new poll, a majority of Americans, including a plurality of independent voters, approve of President Trump's transition performance thus far, and he really hasn't done anything but name people. They haven't really transitioned yet. I hate even using that word, but you know what I mean. So here we got all voters, and it looks like 54% of all voters and 8% don't know. I guess they haven't seen anything. And then 38% of disapprove. How could you possibly disapprove? Oh, that's right. The media is telling you to disapprove. When it gets down here into Democrats, and look at only 20% of Democrats approve of what Trump has done so far. Expected. 70% of Democrats say, no, it stinks. He's not doing well at all. Independents, though, this is where it really starts to matter. 46% of independents say he's doing a good job in how he's doing his transition, and 40% say they don't like it. Again, media. Meanwhile, 93% of Republicans, he's doing exactly what we want him to do. 93%. And so what ends up happening is that you can see at this point that these Democrats are just going to say no, 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 no. We hate everything. We don't want anything to do with anything Trump. But all he's doing is naming names. What could you be against? How many of these people even know Kristi Noem or Howard Lutnick, or, John Ratcliffe? No, you don't know anything other than what the media is saying. That's why you're terrified of Matt Gaetz, because you think that Matt Gaetz did some crazy stuff with some young girls, and he did this. They're doing the Kavanaugh playbook. They're doing it all over again. Character assassination. You don't know who Matt Gaetz is. There's Republicans who didn't know who Matt Gaetz is. But 70% of Democrats we don't like what he's doing. Well, what the hell has he done? All he did was pick a few names. So the Democrat and what the media and what they're trying to do is just completely taint everything. And I don't even think they have to. I think the fact that he's president and he's naming people, that's all. They don't care. It's wrong. We disapprove. So who would you like to see in there? Go ahead, name some names. Who do you want as, the commerce director? You're going to pick some lefty? That ain't going to happen. So when I look at stuff like this, that's when I realize ignore them. And I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking to Trump. I'm talking to his administration. Ignore them. They're never coming back. These people are done. They're off the reservation and they're done. Yeah, 20% of them have said okay, and 10% really aren't paying attention. But for the 70% of people to say they don't like what you're doing, no, that's not what they're saying. They just don't like you. They're never going to change their mind. Yeah, it would be interesting if he can get 20 to 30 or 35% of Democrats to go, yeah, that person's not bad, but that's not going to happen. It's only going to get worse. Wait until the hearings, if they have hearings. Oh my goodness, it's going to be the Salem witch trials. Matt Gaetz is going to have horns. He is going to have, there's going to be stories and probably AI videos, doing all kinds of things to show you what kind of guy he used to be. Oh, it's going to be awful. You can bet everything on that. So, the other breaking news of the day, and then we'll go back to more of this stuff, is Judge Merchan. Some people are talking about this like it's a win. Just be careful. They're playing games here. They're playing a lot of games. Take a listen.
Trump's spokesperson, again, has reacted to the judge's postponement in a statement, and here it is. The American people have re-elected President Trump with an overwhelming mandate to make America great again. It is now abundantly clear that Americans want an immediate end to the weaponization of our justice system, including this case, which should never have been filed, so we can, as President Trump said in his historic victory speech, unify our country and work together for the betterment of our nation. Fox's contributor and law professor at George Washington University, John Turley. Jonathan, we were talking last hour, and now a little bit more time has passed. Any fresh thoughts on November 19th and what we could see?
Well, the Trump administration, I think, can take some solace that they'll have a chance now to argue that the case should be dismissed. But I don't think expectations can be particularly high given this judge's track record. He has not shown any great balance at the trial. I was surprised in watching the trial to see some of his rulings, which frankly didn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought that he had left layers of reversible error, but none of that can be reviewed until this is finalized. Now, some of
all right, so understand what he's saying here. Let me break it down for you. Trump is not convicted until the case is over. The case isn't over. It should be over, but it's not over. So what did Merchan do today? A lot of people are cheering. Oh, it's a big win. It's a win, but it's a little win. You see, he could have came out today and said, hey, there's going to be no sentencing because we're dismissing the entirety of this case. It's over. Done. Sorry. But that's not what he did. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That's not what he did. He did what's called an adjournment. Means it's still hanging like the sword of Damocles over Trump's head. We're not going to do anything right now. We'll let you know when we want to resume this. But, it's not going to be until like February that I decide. So it's not over. And then Alvin Bragg came out and said, no, we're going to object to, you dismissing it. And, right now what we want you to do is just, you can pump the brakes, but don't throw it out. So now Trump is going to go through his transition. He's going to get inaugurated, and he's still got this thing hanging over his head. They did not dismiss it. Don't let anybody on X or anywhere else tell you it's dismissed. It's adjourned. If you know what an adjourn means, if you've ever been in the courtroom and he goes, oh, we're adjourned till 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, that means it's a pause. That's all it means. It's a pause. We'll pick it up at a later date. So this case, which is not a conviction, don't let anybody tell you that. That'll be all over X as well. But it's a conviction. No, it's not a conviction. Conviction has to go through the entirety of the case. It has to be over. What this does do to Trump is that he can't, because it's not a conviction, and this is how you can tell your friends on the left or some of your friends on the right who might not understand, because it's not a conviction, he can't even appeal it. Realize that. At this point, it is such a mirage. It's just sitting there. Eventually, we'll get closer. But there's nothing to appeal because there's been no final adjudication. There's been no gavel that says, done. You're going to go to jail. You've been sentenced to 2-3 years, whatever they would do. Then you can appeal. But there's nothing to appeal as of right now. So Merchan basically called a timeout. I'll get back to you. So this man is out here doing everything he can to get his transition team put together and hire his cabinet and then get them to go through confirmation hearings if they do that. Get in the office, make sure if Social Secret Service, everything is great, and Merchan's just sitting there going, yeah, we'll come back to you. Literally, that's exactly what happened. It is an adjournment. It is not a dismissal. Now, a dismissal could come at any time, but obviously he's not doing that. Otherwise, he would have done it. There's no reason to have this thing just hanging like a cloud following Trump around with the media obviously echoing it every single time. Oh, he's been convicted of 34 crimes. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. They just vomit on people and lie and don't care that they're obfuscating the truth. This case is hanging by a thread, but a thread nonetheless. And it's just there. And you got all this smarmy stuff that Melania has to go through again, that Barron has to go through. The kids get to hear this stuff for again for months and months and months. They're just dragging Trump through the mud, pissing him off, by the way, and not ending it.
that the judge could just freeze this for the upcoming term, to leave it in pendency. I just don't see that type of suspension as a likely or good option. You would have the president's critics saying that he's awaiting sentencing after a jury found him guilty of felonies. They need to have a status that where they can appeal this case, including the decisions made by this judge. Now, it is possible in a week that he could yield to calls for dismissal. You know, many have, including myself, felt that this case should never have been brought, that the judge made an unholy mess of it. In my view, it would be good to send the attractions back to their cages and call this circus over. But I wouldn't necessarily bet the farm on that.
Telling the judge in this case they're mindful of the demands and obligations of the presidency and realize that Trump's return to the White House will, quote, raise unprecedented legal questions. Your reaction to the news?
Well, I think it's absurd. And I think that, Juan Merchan was originally, in my mind, a pro-prosecution judge. Now Juan Merchan is an anti-Trump judge. There is sufficient basis to dismiss this case. But
I'm seeing some of the comments here. And obviously, I haven't explained it enough, and Jonathan Turley hasn't explained it to you. I see this comment right here, and it says it will be overturned on appeal. There's nothing as of today to even appeal. He can't file an appeal. A jury found him guilty. A judge has not convicted him yet. There is nothing for them to do. They can't do it. And I think that's an important distinction that I want you to understand, that at this point, all he did was suspend it. It's suspended in time. Nothing is happening. Trump can submit a motion, but it's going to be a motion to Merchan. You can't appeal an adjournment. That would be very hard. And so somebody else had said, well, Trump's, he's entitled to a speedy trial. The trial is over. The trial's been over. But there's nothing that says you're entitled to a speedy sentencing. He was found guilty by a jury, and the judge is sitting on his butt. So those are two very distinct things that I wanted you guys to understand, is that there is literally nothing to appeal at this point. And the whole speedy trial argument, it goes out the window because the trial's over. So this judge has decided he's basically just going to wait. And wait and wait. If it doesn't get dismissed, just so you know, that there is a chance he could wait until Trump's out of office. He could wait until Trump is 82 and say, okay, now I sentence you to 4 years. And let me just stop you too. He can't pardon himself or anybody else because this is a state level case. So it's a quandary. There is a problem here, and until this judge decides, let the lawyers tell you.
Instead, Juan Merchan, who was conflicted from the beginning of this and should never have been allowed to handle this case by the administrative judge of the courts, was allowed to handle this case. He gets a conviction on an absurd case that's not real. It's a make-believe case barred by the statute of limitation, bootstrapped by a federal crime over which he has no jurisdiction, and then with a verdict sheet that no one understands. And now he says, look, I'm willing to wait the 4 years so that we can continue to have Donald Trump, the president of the United States, be awaiting sentences on his conviction for 34 felony counts that are ridiculous, absurd, and everyone knows it. Now you've got Bragg who's saying, we want to continue this thing. So Juan Merchan now has to have a hearing and decide whether or not those arguments of Bragg are appropriate to continue this case. The Supreme Court's decision within a month of the conviction, and again, there is no conviction unless and until there's a sentencing, that decision reels right into this case because so much of this case was part of the Oval Office, Hope Hicks, Madeleine Westerhout. So much of that evidence the prosecution admitted was essential to their case goes out immediately based upon the Supreme Court's decision. Now let's...
All right, so I'm seeing comments here, and I don't know how to explain it any better than Jonathan Turley or Judge Janine, and I'm telling you guys, I see this one. Barry was a federal charge that he was convicted on. No, it's not. This is a local state court in New York. This is Alvin Bragg, who is an attorney, state's attorney in New York. Judge, it is not a federal case. If it was a federal case, it wouldn't even be news. There'd be nothing to talk about. If this was a federal case on January 20th at about, 1 p.m., it would be done. At that point, the Department of Justice could dismiss it. This is not that. I'm trying to give you guys all the information that I possibly can, and it's I know it's complicated, but it's something that it is going to hang over his head if Merchan doesn't dismiss it. And there's no indication right now that he's going to do that. He should. He very well should. But I think he knows two things. He knows that if he dismisses this, then Trump and Matt Gaetz or whoever are going to look at this very, very closely, some of the stuff that his daughter's been doing, and he could possibly find himself in some hot water. Two, it gives the Democrats more time to keep talking trash about Trump. And number three, it keeps Trump wondering what this guy is going to do. It sucks. I know it sucks. Everybody knows it sucks. But it is what it is. And so, yes, it was a win that he's not getting sentenced right now, but they don't leave off the other half when he says, I'll take it up in a little while, whether it's January, February, or 2028. It's just going to sit there until he decides otherwise.
About the fact that there's a 330 motion for dismissal of the charges, which Merchan could grant immediately by establishing some kind of precedent and saying, you know what? From now on, when there's a president in the Oval Office, irrespective of when the jury verdict came down, the case has to be dismissed. And, temporary immunity, according to Alvin Bragg, doesn't require dismissal post-trial. I mean, this is so full of hate. This is so out of sync with the American public and what they want. Alvin Bragg, Juan Merchan, the two of them, brought Donald Trump, they thought, to his knees. They thought that they would put this man in jail. They thought they were heroes and would swing an election. They are one of the reasons that Donald Trump got elected, because the American people do not believe in this kind of justice. This is what happens in third world countries. And
now, somebody's got a really good question here. And that question is, hey, Barry, who can remove the state judge from his seat, his or her seat? Kathy Hochul. She ain't going to do it. So I don't know if she's up for re-election in 2026. We saw that Trump was making inroads, and maybe, a Republican governor can get in there. But at this point, he's pretty much stuck. It is all on the whim of this judge, and maybe whatever kind of pressure can be put on this guy because of the things his daughter has done. So only the governor could take him out, and maybe they could go to the Supreme Court and file ethics charges. But you see what I'm talking about. This could go on for quite some time. And meanwhile, over here, you got maybe the outbreak of World War III, and over here you're trying to run an economy, and over here you're trying to, make sure that all this other stuff's in place. And meanwhile, you got this idiot up in New York who's sitting here trying to play God over Trump. It's like a mosquito. You're like, just go away. It means nothing. You're not going to convict him, because if you convict him, within an hour of the conviction, you're going to be in the Supreme Court getting it thrown out. He knows that. That's the only reason why. I mean, you got two choices: put him in jail or dismiss it. And when I say put him in jail, you can sentence him to whatever you want. You can sentence him to probation, but sentence him or throw it out. Those are your two options. Well, he took the middle. He said, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit on it. Because if he did the sentence, then it can be appealed, probably dealt with pretty quick. You dismiss it, that's even quicker. This guy chose door number 3, and I'm going to just do nothing.
Alvin Bragg continues to prove it, and Juan Merchan right now doesn't have the spine. He doesn't know what he's going to do. But right now, they want a hearing. They'll have a hearing. They want a motion scheduled, Alvin Bragg, to decide the motion to dismiss. So Bragg is now putting it on Merchan, but is opposing it.
You know, here is the great, I don't know if you want to call it an irony or a tragedy or what you want to call it, Judge, but you've got a district attorney in Alvin Bragg who was willing to wait 4 years for some sentence to come down on Donald Trump, and it could be anything from a fine to who knows what, while at the same time, the justice system in New York let walk on the streets a homeless man who's mentally ill, who stabbed to death 3 people in the Big Apple yesterday.
I don't know if you guys saw that. 3 people. Just all kinds of crimes going on. All kinds of real crimes where people in New York are being damaged, killed, robbed. And you're sitting here trying to play God with the president-elect of the United States. All for political reasons. Think about it. There is nothing here that's like really a crime against somebody. Nobody was robbed. No rules were broken. Even the FEC said no. There's no campaign finance. It's all trumped up, not to use a pun, and it's absolutely meaningless. But he doesn't care.
3. Yep. Yeah. Look, I am standing in front of 100 Center Street. I am in front of the courthouse right now where Donald Trump was tried. And one of the defense attorneys came up to me. He said, you know what? I'm not a Republican. He said, but what they did in that Trump case is absurd. He said, I've got 10 clients whose crimes were committed, allegedly, he said, before this Trump case. He said, we can't even get them to trial. We can't even get the DA to talk about it. They rushed this case for the purpose of destroying Donald Trump. And the American people wouldn't have it. And this case has to be dismissed. It is a violation of everything we hold dear. It's unconstitutional. It is insufficient in terms of evidence, and it is reversible error. There's enough error in this thing to reverse a ship.
And what she means by reversible error, there were enough mistakes made during the course of the trial, in addition, related to what the Supreme Court said, that it's an easy appeal. And Merchan, he knows it's an easy appeal. So he's taking the coward, nutless way out by saying, I just choose not to decide. Even though choosing not to decide is indeed a choice. I think Rush made a song about that. Yeah, never mind, not Rush Limbaugh, Rush the band. He's just not doing anything. And you would think, after the landslide they just got handed to them, the complete butt whooping that they got, that someone in the Democrat Party who had some sense, I don't know who yet, who has the sense, would say, listen, just make this go away. We don't want this to be an issue on an ongoing basis. We, as a party, Democrats, we need to focus on some stuff as well. It's not even a bargaining chip. He doesn't care. You're a gnat. Make it go away. Dismiss it. You would think somebody would do that. Chuck Schumer, Nancy, somebody, give the guy a call. Dismiss this. It doesn't do us any good. It didn't work. The plan failed. And you're continuing with the plan as if something's going to happen? Do you think this guy is ever going to see the inside of a jail cell? No, it ain't happening. Even if you decide a year from now and say we're gonna sentence him to a year in jail, nope. His attorneys will be in the Supreme Court faster than you can blink. So you're doing nobody, not the American people, not the people from New York, not the Democrats. You're doing nobody any favors, except maybe your daughter. Maybe it's a bargaining chip to help your daughter because she's in deep trouble. And she, from what they're saying, she's in federal trouble. So maybe this is the only way he can help her. Maybe in his mind is like, maybe I've got something I can negotiate with and get them to not come after her so hard for basically stealing $90 million or whatever it was that she raised for Kamala. That's the only thing I could think. Looking at it from a 30,000 foot level, I'm like, well, what could he possibly be doing? He's using it as a bargaining chip for his daughter. That's the only thing I can think of at this point. Stiff justice is coming for Alvin Bragg, Juan Merchan, and what's that? Kathy Retard Hochul. Yeah. Are they spiteful? They're absolutely spiteful. They're definitely spiteful. Where is Garland? Sorry, can't talk about Garland. Whatever pressure that he possibly could have put on, it is not a federal case. It's different. It's not federal, so you can't do it. Can Trump pardon himself? No, he cannot pardon himself because, number one, he has not been sentenced. Number two, it's not a federal case. I know it's very hard to listen, but this guy, Merchan, right now, has all the cards. Nobody can do anything. If Trump has gazillion lawyers, if somebody could do something, they would do it. He chose door number 2 or door number 3, how you want to look at it, and that door is, I choose not to decide. And so everybody's going to wait until he makes up his mind. That's it, period. Yeah, Bear, I bet he is trying to bargain. See, one of the things we don't know is what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah, nope, he won't dismiss right now. His daughter is definitely on the hot seat. So imagine that. I know I would do anything for Ashley. And I know I would do anything to keep Ashley out of jail. And so if I knew that, okay, Trump won the election, he's coming in with Matt Gaetz or whoever, he's got Tulsi as DNI and Ratcliffe and CIA, they're going to find everything. There will be no secrets. So the one chip I have is, hey man, I will make this go away if you could make that go away. And knowing, I don't know Trump like in that regard, but what I've seen from Trump, he might be the type of guy who says, no deals. Do what you need to do. I'm going to. No deals. Which is probably why these people are freaking out. This is probably why these people are freaking out all over Washington right now, is because they have probably made those phone calls. Hey, listen, can we, for old time's sake, you guys remember The Godfather? Remember The Godfather when the guy who played Fish, Abe Vigoda, Tessio had made, some deal with the other family, and they found out that Tessio was effed up and it was trying to turn into Don, and they found out, he goes, we need to take a ride. He goes, no, I'm not going. That's just you. And he knew right there, it was over. And he goes, for old time's sake? And Tom looked him in the face. Can't do it. Take him on the ride. Trump seems like that kind of guy. No deals. No deals. No deal for me, no deal for her. You want to sentence me to a year? Let's let the chips fall where they may. Can she do the time? You see, I'll play the game. I'll go ahead and sentence me. I dare you. Here's a chip right here. I double dog dare you. But understand, you're playing with your daughter's life right now. And that's all he's got. All he's got. Yeah, Trump would definitely, I think he would say, bring it. Bring it. Thinking the same thing. Because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We see the news. And different people will tell you the news, but then you got to step back and go, okay, what's happening? What's going on back there? Stool pigeons, people try. We don't even know. We have no idea. He may say, listen, I can tell you how this whole thing started. I'll tell you who came to me, who made the phone call. There's one thing about jail, and people who put people in jail don't like to join them there. See, Merchan is not going to want to see the inside of a cell. So if there was some sort of conspiracy, which we all seem to believe there was some kind of conspiracy to get Trump, certain players know who did that. Merchan is probably one of the players who knows what they did to get Trump. Alvin Bragg is one of the players they know that, did something. Letitia James, they all know. And the music's playing right now. The music in New York on both those cases, on Letitia James's case, Alvin Bragg's case, the music's playing. Best grab a chair. It didn't work. You went for the king and couldn't take him down. And before the DJ turns off that music, you better have your ass in a chair, because the one who doesn't, guess where you're going. And so, Alvin, you don't look like you could do well in a prison cell. Big Letitia, I don't think you'd look good in a prison cell in orange jumpsuit. So I got to believe right now, maybe not today because Matt Gaetz isn't confirmed, but very soon after the confirmations or the appointees, you're going to see people cutting deals, saving their own ass. That's the kind of stuff the people in news won't talk about because they don't even want to get there. But you can tell right now there's some rat scurrying. Now, speaking of Matt Gaetz, this is the guy who terrifies them. And I'm going to show you because it's becoming more and more apparent what's going on.
Briefing that can inform your perspective on where markets are likely to move, what technologies are going to be deemed essential, and that information gets monetized. It gets turned into cold, hard cash, and that's a really hard thing to argue against with an idea that would otherwise have merit and make common sense.
Whether it's Nancy Pelosi or a few others who have been sort of questioned about this kind of activity, they'll say things like, well, this is a free market and Congress should be able to participate in that too. How is it that they think that they're on, or at least are willing to say that they're on the same kind of level playing field as the average American? Yeah, I mean,
Nancy Pelosi is on a level playing field from a free market standpoint with other traders in stocks, kind of like Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. We're on a level playing field with like everyone else hitting baseballs in the 90s. When you're juiced with extra information, then you have the ability to see the future. And that becomes an incredibly valuable thing in the marketplace. In some of these trades, Nancy Pelosi is making millions upon millions of dollars. And it strains credulity to think that someone could win so reliably and so consistently in the marketplace.
He's laying the case out. As you watch this video, think to yourself, okay, you're Nancy Pelosi. You're not a day trader. You don't work on Wall Street. You've never had any Wall Street experience. Never. You've been in Congress for 30 years or whatever. All you know is what you know because you hear it in the halls in Washington. Oh, we're getting ready to go do this. Hey, buy me some shares of that. And you know you've been doing it. And now you got finally an AG who's like, I know what you're doing. You can't hit home runs like that. You're not a trained professional. You're not Mark McGuire. You're not Jose Canseco and Hank Aaron. You can't swing the bat like them. So how did you hit home runs like them? There's only one way Nancy Pelosi has made hundreds of millions of dollars like somebody like Howard Cantor. How did you make your hundreds of millions of dollars, Nancy? You don't have that kind of training. You don't have the chops. How did you do it? And she's been doing it for so long, she probably thought nobody would ever check. So now here we go again. Here's somebody else now who's got to be terrified of Matt Gaetz. But she also has a large Rolodex over the years. And again, I don't see Nancy doing well in an orange jumpsuit. So I'm pretty sure when the knock comes, Nancy's going to say, okay, what can I do? They all say it. How can we work this out? Well, who else is doing this? Who showed you? Who's been placing these things for you? Did they know you were using insider trading secrets? How did you know about XYZ company? It's all going to come tumbling down. And the reason why it's going to come tumbling down is these people thought they were untouchable. They were untouchable because they were for decades. They did whatever they wanted to. They never in their wildest mind thought that Trump would get to a point where he could hire somebody like Gaetz. You see, the first Trump thing, they bamboozled him. Oh, and Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr, who are all in that swamp and didn't go, hey, we're not going to look at those. We're too busy. We're not going to look at Nancy Pelosi. And now you got Matt Gaetz talking about Nancy Pelosi right out the gate. No pun intended again.
When they're one of the people who has more information than almost anyone else on the planet, right? And why it's so hard to police and enforce really, I think, kind of begs the question about the nature of information itself, right? There's not like a digital trail on knowledge that you acquire while a member of Congress. It's something that exists in one's mind, and so that's probably why you haven't seen effective prosecutions, because so much of it just happens through the osmosis of this place and what you learn and how you can turn that into market gains.
Yeah, about that osmosis. I mean, it's not just Nancy Pelosi; it's others who say, well, it's the Shaggy defense. It wasn't me. It was my husband, or it was my financial advisor, or it was my second cousin twice removed. It was the one-armed man. How do you get your arms around that when you're looking at legislation?
Well, that's why what we've done to date has failed. There was this belief that you didn't have to ban congressional stock trading. You could just require disclosures, and that those disclosures would shame people into conduct that was better and more virtuous, and that created more public trust around lawmaking. The reality is folks have become so brazen, like they're willing to tell you that they're on the Armed Services Committee and trading Raytheon stock. They're willing to tell you they're on the Energy and Commerce Committee and killing it on energy trades that they're making. They're willing to...
Oh, this is going to get good. You realize he could not have done this interview without having already looked into this. This isn't something that Trump woke up one day and said, you know what? I think my AG, how about Matt Gaetz? No, he sat down with a meeting and goes, Matt, sell me. What do you want to do? Well, I know this, I know this, I know this. Yes, I know that too. How have they been doing it? Well, they've been doing it because she's been talking to this company once she's passing the law. Are you willing to do this? Are you willing to push your chips into the middle of the table and go after these people? Because unlike what everyone's saying, going after your political opponent is the main reason they don't like Matt Gaetz, the real reason is they know he knows where the bodies are. He already knows crimes have been committed. He just told you. Understand, what he just said in this interview is a federal crime. Insider trading, right there and then. But they've let it happen for so long, and now they're looking at this guy going, he sleeps with little girls, or and he whatever. Because he just told you the crime. I don't even got to go looking for it. Imagine a subpoena that drops on Nancy Pelosi. She's sitting there and it says, I need a list of all your trades, all your accounts for the last, however the statute of limitations are. Let me see all this. Let me see what your profits are. Let me see your bank accounts. The power of discovery. And for those of you who don't know, discovery is once you, basically file the lawsuit or criminal charge, now we start digging. See, I already know you did it. You've been bragging. You've been telling people, yeah, I bought some Raytheon. We knew that, like, for instance, right now, somebody somewhere knew that Joe Biden was getting ready to try and start World War III. A lot of people knew that he was going to, give the nut job over there some rockets. I didn't. Probably you didn't. But somebody knew that was about to happen. The urge of saying, hey, go ahead and buy me some rocket stock right now. Yeah, get as much rocket stock as you can get your hands on. And all the things associated with that. Hey, we got missile warning system stocks you can buy. Yeah, get some of that too. and so they've stepped into their own bear trap. Poof. They've been doing it. No, hey, nobody bothers us. They're like the mob. They were literally, on both sides, by the way. See, that's the other problem. That's a big problem. That's why the Lindsays of the world and the Mitch McConnells of the world, that's why they're all sitting back going, no, 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 because they've been doing it too. Probably Tim Scott. I'm not saying he is. I'm not going to allege anything. But what I'm saying is some of these people got filthy stinking rich. And you can see them and go, well, he doesn't have any chops to be filthy stinking rich. How in the hell are you filthy stinking rich? Oh, so you've been trading this stuff too. I bet you they don't have to go look at many different things other than the trades. Remember, Al Capone, which Trump kept talking about. Remember, Trump's been saying everything about Al Capone for a year. Oh, they took down Alphonse Capone, and I've been indicted more than Alphonse Capone. He kept saying Alphonse Capone, right? You heard it. Do you know how Alphonse Capone actually went to jail? He may have murdered hundreds of people. He may have whacked people all over the city. How did he go to jail? He went to jail because of income taxes. See, that's the easiest thing to prove. That's how they got him. Hey, listen, I don't have any witnesses on the murders. I don't have any witnesses on the bootlegging or the girls. But it's easy for me to do the witnesses on paper. Hey, Nancy, what's your tax return look like? I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what these people have done. And the statute of limitation for that, I believe, is 7 to 10 years. So you've gone through a couple different presidents. You've made a crap load of money back when nobody was checking. And now Matt Gaetz can look at 7 to 10 years back, and all he's got to do is find one or two things. That's it. One or two things on 7 to 10 years worth of tax returns. And you're effed. You are so done. You lose everything. You lose your congressional pension. You lose everything. They may take your house. So when you're 80-something years old like she is, what's the next step? What do you want? What do I got to do? And just go from office to office to office and just ask them. Okay. What do you want me to do? That's why they're freaking out. That's why.
They're leading the ethics committee, and it's okay that they're making just the right precise moves on online gambling stocks, for example. And the reason this is allowed to persist in the absence of stronger laws, because both sides are doing it, right? Bipartisanship can be one of the...
I told you. That's why they're against him. He already knows both sides are doing it. Swamp doesn't get swampy unless a lot of people are in it. That you're not allowed to keep doing what you're doing if people don't look the other way. With the money, with the trades, with the little kids. Yeah, people gotta look the other way. The guy over there in the island couldn't do what he did if people didn't look the other way. Puff Daddy couldn't do it if people just... All it takes is one or two people to say, hey man, this is what they're doing. Or one or two people to actually look. See, that's the real problem. That's the nature. Nobody wanted to even look.
One of the most insidious things in this town when it's bipartisan corruption, when it's a bipartisan consensus around self-dealing and self-enrichment. And that's what we have here. Powerful people on both sides of the aisle who are lining their pockets. And it's these offenses are not victimless, right? It distorts the marketplace. And I just imagine some poor schmuck with their 401k working, squirreling a little money away.
Yeah, the poor schmuck who has to do it the right way, who relies on his government, the people he elected, to make sure that it's not rigged, that he's playing the same game. Hey, Nancy, you want to share some tips this way? I mean, you've made hundreds of millions. You don't think AOC, you don't think these people all talk to each other? Hey, man, get some missile stock right now, before tomorrow, because Joe's going to say this. You don't think that happened? That 3-minute clip I just played you tells you everything you need to know why they're terrified of Trump with Gaetz. The crimes are already known. You don't even have to go looking for them. There is literally no defense for what these people have done on both sides. So they can't possibly have this guy get in office. That's why they don't want him to confirm him. And now they're having to confront the idea that Trump is serious about going nuclear with these recess appointments. You see, this swamp does not get drained. And then once it's drained, it does not get cleaned and pressure washed if you don't use these recess appointments. Because as soon as somebody gets in who's even this much compromised, Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, and they choose not to go after these people because they're worried about what the cocktail set up in Washington, D.C. says, or maybe their own things in the closet. See, Matt Gaetz reminds me a lot of Trump. A lot like Trump. Trump's like, yes, I was a billionaire playboy. Yes, I said, grab him by this. Yes, I did something with Playboy bunnies. Yeah, I was a crazy billionaire running around doing whatever I want in New York City. Yep, you got me. But I never drank. I never did drugs. I never hurt anybody physically. And I paid my taxes. Unlike you people. Remember when he ran against Hillary? He goes, I know because, as Dave Chappelle, I did it. I was one of the ones y'all came to. I know everyone I wrote checks to. I know what y'all did for those checks. I know it all. And you tried to take me out physically. You effed with the wrong dude, man. He wasn't part of your swamp, but you wanted him taken out. And now he's got this pit bull just on a chain ready to just run free.
And I don't care if it takes every second of our time and every ounce of our energy. We either get this government back on our side or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them if they do not come to heel.
Can we agree that perhaps that pardon power needs to be reviewed and curbed?
So, great question. In Federalist 74, Alexander Hamilton writes that the reason we have the pardon power is to serve as a check on a criminal justice system, which, if allowed to run wild, could create a great sense of sanguinity in our country. And so I think that if you look at the original intent of the pardon power, it cannot be limited. And again, Trump has pardoned 26 people, Obama pardoned over 1,700, Bill Clinton pardoned 459.
So the answer to the question is what?
I would agree that Roger Stone should be pardoned if for no other reason that there's been a double standard in this country where people like Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe, Clapper, Brennan have not faced consequences.
Can I just ask you, how about Rob Blagojevich, who flees like a children's hospital? Was that a good pardon?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know very much about the governor of Illinois. I'm not going to get into that one. I know Roger, I don't know Blago, and I'll leave that to others to decide.
Gaetz is the most articulate member of Congress. It's like, no, it's not even close, right? So they hate him for that because he's a danger. My explanation, of course, I've noticed that Republicans believe most of what they're told. Part of it is, I think there's an IQ gap, if I'm just being honest. Part of it is they believe in the system, and Democrats just don't believe in the system at all. They don't believe in any system that curtails their power, basically. But Republicans really believe in it, to their great credit. And so they're like, well, it's the DOJ. I mean, it's kind of corrupt on the margins. You know what I mean? There's some bad apples, but most of them are really great. Really? Why haven't the great ones resigned? Right. I don't think there's any evidence they're mostly great at all. I think they're really dangerous, heavily armed.
I want to start by talking.
It's very easy for somebody like Matt Gaetz. Once Trump found somebody who was willing to do it, see, that was probably the hardest part. He probably had to look and look and look and say, man, who can I get that's even willing to stick their neck out there? Because I'm telling you right now, Matt Gaetz needs to be under as much protection as Trump is. Because these people understand everything they have done. Their entire livelihoods are now in peril. That makes people with money very, 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 very dangerous. They have no qualms whatsoever trying to figure out a way, how can I make this go away? How can I get this to disappear? And I love what Trump did, because he made Matt Gaetz basically the figurehead. And then he's got those other guys that worked with the Supreme Court with him as their deputy attorney general. So it's not going to get any easier for them if Matt Gaetz wasn't there. They're cornered. They are absolutely cornered, and you are going to see a fight like you've never seen. It's going to make Kavanaugh seem like watching something on Nickelodeon. They are going to do, you're going to hear the most vile things possible about Matt Gaetz. Because they have to. Now, the only thing, I don't know what Trump is waiting for to be, maybe it's waiting for inauguration, I don't know. But he has to, in my estimation, he has to put Matt Gaetz in with a recess appointment. I think he has to. Either that or Matt said, bring it on. I'm good. They can say whatever they want. They can call me any kind of name. And we need to expose the people publicly who are on the Republican side who are going to vote no. Let make them say no. You can still use your recess appointment. Even if he goes through the congressional hearings and they say no, it's been voted down, he can say, all right, screw you. I'm in recess. I'm appointing him. See, there's no problem with doing that. Maybe they're trying to smoke out the Republicans because they took that secret ballot against Rick Scott. So if they have to go public with their votes, now that there's 53 of them, show me straight up that you plan on voting against my guy. I want to know that you're going to vote against Matt Gaetz. Let's see what happens. Now, something interesting had popped up, and I saw this, and I'm like, I got to show everybody this. This is what Marjorie Taylor Greene posted. For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we're going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own, Matt Gaetz, that Trump has appointed, then put it all out there for the American people to see. All the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed, all your harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled, paying off victims with taxpayer money, the entire Island Guys files, the tapes, the recordings, the witness interviews, but not just those. There's more, that the guy over there in the island wasn't the only asset. I don't know what she's alluding to there, but yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? If we're going to dance, let's dance in the sunlight. I'll make sure we do. Another person who is obviously saying, I know some stuff. So if you guys want to play about ethics and you want some files and reports to be released, and then today, the New York Times comes out and says Matt Gaetz was hacked. All of a sudden, now that we're talking about Matt Gaetz, it was hacked. Hacked equals CIA. They leaked this file. We're about to see what's going to happen. When you got people like this, Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about we need to drop dime on some of this stuff, and people want to see it. Like you can see, I want to see the list. Who used taxpayer money to silence victims? Americans deserve to see it all. Full transparency. Make it all public, especially the client list. That would solve a lot of problems because their donors paying off these corrupt politicians. You don't want this fight. Resign. Do what you need to do. Take the Lear jet and head to the Riviera. Live the rest of your life in exile. But you don't want this fight. You think you want this fight. You think, if you're a Democrat or a Republican who's done some of this stuff, you're sitting back thinking, we'll just go ahead and not let it happen. We'll make sure that he'll never get, affirmed. I was waiting for Mark Levine to finally come up and say something. I watched this show on Saturday and Sunday, and he didn't really go too far with the recess appointments. That was until today. Recess appointments. Funny how the chest beaters are condemning recess appointments. a practice which has been going on throughout our history for a wide variety of reasons, as something uniquely Trumpian and a grave threat to liberty and separation of powers, and that's before Trump has even been sworn in. Its liberal use by Bush 43 and Clinton largely escaped their attention, not to mention overly emotional outbursts. Probably because back when those guys used it, they weren't bringing in someone who was going to prosecute. Interesting. Of course, there's another constitutional issue the chest beaters utterly ignore. What if the Senate, say a combination of a majority of Democrats and a small faction of never-Trump Republicans, slow-walk the president's nominees, thereby preventing him from assembling the team he wants to carry out the mandate the voters gave him? Is that what the framers intended? The framers not only feared a tyrannical president, but a tyrannical legislature. They didn't create a parliament, and the Senate itself drastically changed the 17th Amendment, is not populated as the framers originally intended. So what he's saying is, without ever saying no, you can just drag it out and drag it out and drag it out. We're looking at April or May, and still, no, we haven't confirmed him yet. See, they have a lot of options if we let it go that route. Since our republic's founding, every position from the Supreme Court justices to much less significant presidential appointments has been made by recess appointments. For various political and governing reasons and lengths of time, Donald Trump didn't invent this idea, and we don't have to go back to the days of George Washington and the difficulty of travel then to determine its relevancy today. The last 25 years will do. Obama, Bush, and Clinton made hundreds of recess appointments. That's important. As you're hearing people in the news and they're talking about, Trump doing this or doing that. His predecessors did it hundreds of times. Not for 6 or 7 cabinet appointees, hundreds of times. Media didn't scream then. Interesting. Yes, the Supreme Court more recently placed some limits on the practice, but it did not torpedo the practice altogether. Despite the chest beaters' propaganda, if the practice is to be eliminated in the full court, could have done so, but they didn't. The only constitutional alternative is an amendment abolishing recess appointments. A difficult course indeed. There's no movement to do so. Obviously, a constitutional amendment would require, I think it's 66 of the 100 senators to do so, which ain't ever going to happen. Even if possible, it would greatly increase the power of a majority of senators, 2/3 of whom did not stand for re-election, to broadly thwart a newly elected president's ability to make his most important and crucial appointments to cabinet posts and manage a massive bureaucracy of 2.5 million bureaucrats. And I could go on and on and on, but because he wrote a long one, but he is basically saying here that bugger off. He can do it. He can actually do this, and I think he should. I really think at this point, with what these people are doing, he should probably just say, you know what, we're done, we're going to push this through, and I'm willing to just go with it either way. I saw this one too. Where is this? This was something that Elon Musk had said. Elon Musk said, Matt Gaetz has 3 critical assets that are needed for the AG role: a big brain, a spine of steel, and an axe to grind. A third one scares people. He is the Judge Dredd America needs to clean up a corrupt system and put powerful bad actors in prison. Gaetz will be our hammer of justice. I understand what he just said there. He has confirmed their worst nightmares. Oh, he's going to go after his political opponents. Yes. If you did something wrong, they're coming for you. I mean, is there any other way you could read this? He's a spine of steel and an axe to grind. He's the Judge Dredd America needs to clean up a corrupt system and put powerful bad actors in prison. That's an affirmative. Yeah, we're sorry you don't like it. We're coming after anyone who broke the law. And if you're an opponent, so be it. I'm glad it's somebody like Elon Musk finally just came out and said exactly what's going on. Yes, we are coming. Now what? Now that you know that Trump is going to come, if you broke the law, what do you have to say for yourself? And then Darren Beatty responded, Attorney General Matt Gaetz is inevitable. So if Matt Gaetz is inevitably going to be the Attorney General, over the next couple of months, you're going to see people flee. They'll obviously lawyer up, but they will have no choice but to flee. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have a full sitting of senators and congressmen come January 20th. You already know what you've done. Let that sink in for a second. These people already know what they've done. And now they know there's really no way to stop him, is there? He's just going to ram these recess appointments up our butts, isn't he? And with them having access to all the intelligence, we're in deep poop, aren't we? What do? Well, one of the things you do is you do this. This is from today at 2:06 p.m. Why the hell is there an industrial paper shredding truck parked outside of the DOJ right now? These criminals are in freaking scorched earth mode with Matt Gaetz coming in, and that's why. And they've got look at the guys are there. They're having a shredding party. And they didn't expect, what was interesting, for somebody to be there with a camera. You see, the entirety of Washington, somebody happened to be standing right where that shredding truck was. Why would you need a shredding truck at the Department of Justice? That's mass shredding going on. That's terror. That's widespread panic right there. With Elon's tweet that I showed you, by the way, just to give you an idea of the time frame here. Where was that? I deleted it already. Oh no, I didn't. Here it is. Elon's tweet, just to show you, because you got to look at time frames too. He tweeted that at 1:59 this morning. 1:59 that got tweeted, and then here is this truck at 2:06 p.m. right before I went on air. Coincidences? Not in Washington. There are no coincidences. He came out and tweeted it. Obviously, he had told Trump. By the way, they're together today. They're out looking at one of his rocket launches. So he's down there, with the SpaceX crew. And you got Elon just straight up saying, "Yeah, we're coming for you." I'm gonna let you read that again before we go. He's the Judge Dredd of America. He needs to clean up a corrupt system, and he's going to put powerful, bad actors in prison. Just imagine you're one of those powerful, bad actors. That everybody knows what you've done. See, none of this happened in the dark. It all happened because the swamp didn't care. Everybody knew that what Nancy was doing became a joke. There's a guy on X who follows her trades and reports about her trades. Oh, she just sold 100,000 shares of this one and made $1 gazillion. It's a meme. It's an absolute meme. But some people in Washington are starting to get the idea.
Talking, guys, about what I call the controversial five, the nominees, go ahead and put up their pictures, please, who may or may not make it. And there are people who say all five will make it, and people who say none of the five, and people who say some of the five, but have different perceptions. Sean, who are on that list right now, who would you say are the two most unlikely to be confirmed?
I think the obvious answer is Gaetz and Hegseth. But here's the thing about confirmation hearings. Things come out about individuals, comments get made, right? So does someone try to trip them up and ask them some random question? I remember there was an ambassador, and I couldn't even remember. I think it was under Obama, and they were asked something about the country they were going to serve, and they couldn't answer the language that was spoken in the country, and it made them look like a fool. Dan,
met with Argentina.
Thank you for
the question.
There's my lifeline. I used that.
I want to take a second because in 14 seconds this is happening. Trump is here. This is the Starship in Texas that's getting ready to lift off, and it's lifting off right now. This is awesome. Look at the power of that thing getting ready to take off. You think it was any coincidence that right after Biden decided to try to force World War III, that Elon Musk and Trump are down in Texas showing off this Starship blasting into space? Do you think that would, again, it's just coincidental that Trump's down there? The president-elect of the United States is with Elon watching this thing get blasted into space. I just don't believe in those kinds of coincidences. I think everything this guy is making right now is a message. Everything Trump is doing is a message. We got the best, is what he's saying. Remember, he said about it in his speeches. He goes, hey, Elon, can anybody else do this? Nope, I'm the only one. So you're going to send this thing up, and then you're going to come back down here and park it again. Yeah, I got to be there for that. And this thing is being shot up into the atmosphere. It's going at 1,700 kilometers. It's just moving. I wonder how long it would take for that thing to get to, I don't know, Ukraine? Russia? Look at that thing. Well, now it's going at 2,700 miles per hour, approaching 3,000 miles per hour. It just eclipsed 3,000 miles per hour, and it's still going up in terms of speed. Now it's at 3,300 miles per hour. 3,500 is heading to 4,000 miles per hour. Yep, it just right now just eclipsed 4,000 miles per hour. And it's still rising. I don't know if I can pull this up so you guys can see it. If you can see right there. There's the, oh wait a minute, I went too high. Hold on, let me come back over so you guys can see this. Right here above the 2 million views, it's at 5,000 miles per hour, this thing. And I guess that's the after boosters, and boom. So now you're at 52. There it goes. Bam. Like they must have just broke a barrier or something. Now that is the one that's going to come back to Earth. And meanwhile, the other thing is flying at 5,000 miles per hour. I don't know if this is one of the ones. Oh, there we go. Hey, Zelensky, look what we can do. Look what we can do. I'll keep an eye on that and see if it comes back and lands again, because that would be interesting. So let me get back to these guys. Just wanted you to keep that in the back of your mind, that Trump today, along with Elon, went down to Texas and launched that thing. Let's go.
I can't phone a friend. But anyway, I say that because it's obvious, right? But I also think that Trump has made it very clear that he wants especially Matt Gaetz to go through. And if you listen to the Sunday show, even the detractors are saying, I'm going to give him a shot. So I say that only because it's the conventional wisdom, but I still maintain that all five get through.
Okay, Dan, which two do you think are most endangered?
I think Hegseth is the most in danger by a lot. I think there's just going to be more of a drip, drip, drip. And we haven't, the focus hasn't even really gotten to some of his more controversial statements that he's made about who should and should not serve and the roles in combat. I actually think Gaetz is going to get through. I think MAGA is going to draw a line and dig in on this one. He's of them. I think they love that people hate him. And so I think there's going to be a staring match between those two camps. I'm not sure who the fifth one is, or the second one would be of the five. I think, to Sean's point, if somebody has a bad hearing, perhaps, but I think...
See, this is with everybody assuming that there's going to be hearings. So they're saying that even Matt Gaetz going through a hearing is going to get in. And they're worried about Pete Hegseth and whether or not he could get in. But they're assuming that this is about hearings, which I don't think it's about.
4 of the 5 will get through. what one gets sacrificed to the confirmation gods.
I don't think
All right,
Dan. I don't think what Dan is saying can be understated. Like Matt is like a deity in MAGA world, and the idea they feel like it's not about him. He is the vehicle. Whereas Pete is not. He's obviously a co-host on Fox and Friends Weekend, well liked. But he's not. He doesn't have. Because of the nature of the job. It's not like he's out there the same way that Matt was, going after DOJ and hearings and things like that. It's not. I'm not trying to compare the two in terms of their dedication to the cause. More that Matt has been able to be in hearings where he has these viral clips of him attacking folks from DOJ and railing against them. So for that reason, I don't think that people care. And also the DOJ, they believe, is what was more weaponized than anything else. If you're not a DOD employee, contractor, or member of the military, you might not be as passionate about reform in DOD as people. Everyone in MAGA world knows what DOJ has done or not done. And so I think the one is a cause celeb, the other isn't. And so for those reasons, I think what Dan said is spot on.
So you guys are much more bullish on his confirmation prospects than the conventional wisdom, or what I call the gang of 500. Which is interesting to me. So I just want to explore for a moment. MAGA did not get its choice for Senate Majority Leader.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to this thing because he's about to park this rocket. So this is the same rocket that went flying up into space and shot the capsule or whatever in, and now it's coming back home. This is the thing that Trump was just amazed at. I was amazed at. Many people were amazed at. Obviously, there's 3.1 million people watching this thing just come back to Earth. It's stunning. I just want to, is it going to park again, or did it go in the ocean? I can't tell. It looks as though they don't have a camera. I don't know. Can't tell if this thing is going into the ocean or not. I think that's the part. Well, I thought it was coming back right now. So if it's not coming back, we'll go back to it in a second. If it's going at 20,000 miles per hour, the part that shot it up into the space. All right, so let's go back to this. And, oh, that's just so beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm a space nut. I think that is so cool. So cool. But wanted to share that to you guys. All right, here we go.
And I don't get the sense from John Thune's body language that he's going to whip this vote, for Gaetz. Don't you, just to play devil's advocate a bit, don't you think the clubbiness of the Senate is going to be immune to what MAGA wants?
So remember that Senate majority vote was secret. So they all got to hide behind the secret, I don't want to tell you who my vote was for.
That's a crock. That's an absolute crock as far as I'm concerned. That you couldn't. Why would you want it secret?
2, Trump didn't weigh in on it. And so no one feels like they went against Trump. I mean, we all know that he would have probably preferred Rick Scott. But at the end of the day, I also think now having to publicly vote against Matt Gaetz for no reason, and again, it's not about Matt. Matt is the vehicle to get justice at the Department of Justice. And so if you vote against Matt Gaetz without any solid evidence, you are going to feel the wrath of MAGA.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's why I think this early, unless something comes up between now and that vote where some of Trump's capital bleeds out a little bit, he's going to enter that fight with maximum power. And do you want to start the new Congress going to war with the online army so that when you go home...
That's us. That is us. We are the online army that this man is talking about. So if Trump doesn't get his picks, if you guys can go through all your dog and pony shows and call him all kinds of names, at the end of the day, if you try to extend it, he could pull it and just say, we're going to go recess. That's it. We're not playing your games anymore. These guys are Washington insiders. So they're talking to other Washington insiders. They can tell what's happening. And they're probably looking at this from a perspective of, damn, I wouldn't want to be you guys right about now.
You are just being beat up in town halls. Like, you almost don't even want to show your face. Once you leave Capitol Hill and you go back to the real world, at home, you will be tormented. And maybe Mitch McConnell, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski, but unless like 7 other members are willing to join in, do you want to be the John McCain going like this and have to go home? I just don't see it unless it's a whole bunch of them. There's safety.
And also, everybody talks about this in terms of them being in cycle when they're up for re-election. Dan's right. I mean, for 4 years, you're just going to get the crap kicked out of you. Number one. Number two, you don't think you have to work with the president on anything else? Maybe it's a ag issue, a tariff issue, a project in your district or your state. Like, this is not about 4 or 6 years from now getting reelected. This is about waking up tomorrow and being shunned and not having anyone return your calls, not getting those tours, all the crap that senators care about.
All the goodies, all the amenities. You know, that's what they really care about. They're the ones who want to get invited and see the picture with Trump and shaking his hands. It's the nuts in the media who don't understand that.
They will come after you, and the White House will be told you are persona non grata.
Yeah. I have to say, although appearances to the contrary, my full-time job is not promoting two-way. I will say all 3 of us are much more bullish on Matt Gaetz being confirmed than the rest of the media. Okay. So if you're watching this show, I would just point out to you, you're being given an opportunity to understand we might end up being wrong. But if he's confirmed, you've heard an explanation here that is not on offer in the rest of the media, which is not just biased against Trump, but tends to cover confirmation hearings of troubled nominees as if they're doomed until the day they either get confirmed or the plug gets pulled. So we'll see.
And the lawyer who represented a woman convicted of running an...
Okay, so I know the Rocket is doing some stuff. I'm looking for it, but I want you to listen very, very closely to this. This is something that happened a few years back, and I want you to listen to who was involved in this and how it transpired, because we're talking about different people knowing different crimes and what they've done to cover different crimes and how they've basically worked to shield and protect each other. If you've never seen this, your jaw is going to drop. Because every person in Congress knows exactly what this woman is going to tell you. But they've looked the other way. They haven't said anything. Same thing with the guy who owns the island. Same thing with Puffy. Same thing with all that stuff. Nobody says anything. It's an unwritten rule in Congress. Don't talk. Don't speak about it. But this was so interesting. I dug this up and I'm like, I bet you most people haven't seen this. You were going to freak out.
Escort service for well-heeled customers in Washington, D.C. says that he wants to release more information from the case, but he cannot legally do so. One America's John Hines has more on the case.
The U.S. Supreme Court has denied a request from a lawyer who once represented a woman known as the D.C. Madam to release records from her famous escort service. The records were ordered sealed back in 2007 and contain information that the lawyer in the case says could affect the 2016 presidential election. The lawyer in the case, Montgomery Blair Sibley, says that he wanted the Supreme Court to lift a lower court order keeping the records sealed. And the judge presiding over the lower court where the case sits bottled up, that would be D.C. Circuit Court Chief Judge Merrick Garland.
In this particular...
Yeah. That Merrick Garland. You see, this woman was a madam in Washington, D.C., and they wanted to get her client list put out there. Hey, listen, you can't have one without the other. There's no way to have the conjugal visit without 2 people being involved in the conjugality. And we can't do that. So what judge said no? Oh, Merrick Garland. That's the judge who said no. So, other than the list, who would know about the list? The madam. Well, why don't they just go ahead and subpoena the madam?
Case, he's the chief administrative judge there, and therefore he has his hand on the throttle or the brake of the processing of all the cases. My case has been up there since March 9th. We're closing it on 30 days. I did make a motion to expedite it based upon, the Wisconsin primary yesterday and other compelling factors. He's ignored that, and they're just sitting on it.
Sibley says Garland's court has kept his case from...
Sound familiar? Sound familiar with what we just said about Merchant? He's just sitting on it. Not going to do anything with it. Well, dude, you're the judge. What do you mean you choose not to decide? That is seemingly what they do these days in government, is like, we're not going to just let people forget about this. Well, what about happens if the lady wants to talk?
Even being considered. But Sibley is anxious to make the documents public because he believes there is information, phone records, and names of the D.C. Madam's customers that voters should be aware of in this presidential primary season.
Primary yesterday that may have changed the balance of power, that who knows what the voters would have done had they had the information that I'm being gagged from releasing.
The so-called D.C. Madam Deborah Jean Palfrey ran a high-priced escort service in the D.C. area for several years before her conviction in 2008. She died later that year of an apparent suicide. One of her clients...
You can't make this up. You literally can't make this up. And the judge was Merrick Garland. All it takes is for people to start digging, and the rats will be exposed. This woman ran a high-priced call girl service in Washington, D.C. that serviced Congress. You know, some of those people have been there 20 or 30 years. This was back in 2008, 2009. And she had a book. Yeah, I got all these guys up in here, and they're calling, yeah, we'll send over Susie Q, and, you know, Delilah Lee, and Tiffany with 2 E's. We'll send them all over. You guys can have a grand party. Now we're going to have some problem. We're going to all go to jail, and I'm not going down alone. You just can't arrest me for answering the phone. Somebody was in the hotel meeting the product. Somebody was consuming my product. How come you're not bringing these people out? Your Honor, I think we should do something. I mean, Your Honor, Garland. It's not, how am I getting arrested? And then you got dead. You committed suicide. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just giving facts. Merrick Garland sat on the case. They didn't want to release who the senators were and congressmen were who were getting the candy from the woman. See, it goes two ways. There was a transaction. Somebody purchased the candy. She was just the one offering the candy. She goes to jail, gets dead. The people who bought the candy, everything's fine. That's how Washington has worked. And there's no statute of limitations on, you know, making somebody disappear. Yeah, I understand she committed suicide. I bet that was an incredible investigation. I bet you they looked over and overturned everything. I'm sure they went through her entire client list to see if possibly she was going to name somebody on that list. Somebody important. Somebody in a very high-profile government position. But now, we'll never know. And I bet you, if somebody goes down to the courthouse in Washington, say Matt Gaetz, and says, let me see the evidence in this file. Do you guys have the book? What book? The book that was the center of this case. You know, the book where, you know, Garland didn't do anything with it because he didn't want to charge any of the Congress people or senators. That book. Oh, it's gone. I friggin' guarantee you. I guarantee you that book and all the information in that book are no longer available. Nobody's ever going to see that book. Sort of like what happened over there and everything else. What are you doing down there, dog? Same guy. No coincidences. That's what I'm saying. I keep telling you, no coincidences. These people are terrified because of what's happening. Man, we are in a bad way, and I don't see how it's going to change. That's how bad things are right now. Man, let me just show you this real quick. That spaceship has docked or something somewhere. It's not flying anymore. Or don't know what it's doing. But you're going to tell me that's a coincidence too, huh? That he just happened to shoot up a rocket by a private company that Elon Musk owns. Okay. Sure, I'm buying that. I'm buying that. I want to show you something else too that Elon Musk tweeted. Some of you guys will understand this. Some of you guys will really understand what this actually could possibly mean. There was this thing that happened, back in about 3 years ago, where the 17th letter of the alphabet, and there was all kinds of conspiratorial stuff that was going on. You remember that, don't you? You remember that 17th letter of the alphabet and what it was called? Interesting. I'm trying to get back to it because it was sent to me. Let me get to it because this is going to be very interesting for you guys to see. It's taking a while to get back there. I should probably just have saved it so I would be ready for it. But let me go to my other X profile so I can dig this up for you, because it's going to be very interesting. Still should be in evidence. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what's going on with these people. So let me go to Super Chats. By the way, I had somebody yesterday. I just want to say this in case you're new here. I don't have time to look at Super Chats as they come in. We get way too many comments. 8, 9, 10,000 comments. However, at the end, I have a search feature that pulls them all up for me. So I will always acknowledge them at the end. Trust me, I know you guys are doing great things and helping out, and I will acknowledge every single one of them. And this is the time when I do it just before I sign off. So please don't be upset. I'm not ignoring anybody. First one here is from B. Michael Nays. Thank you, Barry. Appreciate your work. Thank you for watching. Tommy Radcliffe. Tommy, if you come back at 7 o'clock tonight, I got a surprise for you. Tommy said, where'd that go? Trump can perhaps pardon himself from New York case. Ask Mark Levin. They use a federal crime and attach it to a state crime. Yeah, I know they did some funky stuff there. Demon of Cybertron. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump sent that video of the rocket ship to Putin and Kim and said, Elon built his rocket ship. Look how powerful it is. I'm telling you, that wasn't by any coincidence. I bet you he was saying, y'all need to knock it off over there because you won't even see it coming. And I love the way Trump lays breadcrumbs. When he mentioned at his rallies, he keeps saying it. So Elon, nobody else can do this? Not China, nobody? Nope. We're the only ones. Yep. Oh, I can use that. So I said, make a phone call. Hey, Vlad and little guy Zelensky, do me a favor. Look up. No, like right now. Yeah. Cool it. I mean, I doubt it went all the way over there, but you get my point. Turn on your television. You haven't seen that in a while, have you, Vlad? Yeah. Let's make sure we don't have to send anything your way. See, this thing is state of the art. It's not like one of the ones you got in mothballs, and the other guy don't have any. And while you're at it, get Iran on the line too. Tell them all to watch this. Watch what happens today about 4:30. Just everybody tune in. Tune in, check this out. That to me would just send shivers. If I was a world leader and I'm watching this thing go up and it's going that fast and nobody else can do it. Nope, we're the only ones. Remember he said it over and over. We are the only ones. That wasn't by mistake. Brett Florin. The judge is holding this in his cards because he fears that Trump DOJ beat him and daughter. This is 100% a CYA move. I believe that. I believe that's exactly what it is. Irene Brown. Thank you very much. Larry 1754. When I now pay income tax, I should be able to choose where my tax goes and not go. And who can decide? I'd be down with that. I would definitely be down with that. We get to choose. Gray Man, implement tariffs, cut corporate taxes equals bringing manufacturing and jobs back to the U.S. It's not rocket science. Oh, no pun intended. Service jobs will be the first to go when the H hits the fan. And this is from Janice Brewer. Everything stated proves a statement Hillary said. If this SOB gets in, we're all going down. Yep, now they are. Yep, now they are. That's for sure. From RBI Sports, thanks you. Barry Elementary Math, he goes, we won. Sit back, relax, enjoy the Trump fight. Yeah, they're going to have to do that. And last one, Hockey Gramps, thank you, Barry, for the quality programming. I'm glad you enjoy it. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back here at 7:30 tonight. This is from Terry Gilly at the end. Didn't want to mess her. Okay. All right, so we'll be back here at 7:30. I'm going to eat dinner, take the dog out, see what's happened, transpired in the last couple hours. And we'll see you guys at 7:30 tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. It's only going to get better from here. Talk to you soon.